All right, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's quarantine is going well. Mr. Shore here to give you guys some information about how we're going to be continuing in STEM applications for the remainder of the school year here. Obviously, it's going to be a little difficult to build solar ovens and solar cars and things like that with our limited materials and resources, but we do have a lot of digital projects that we are planning on getting into anyway, so this is a great opportunity to do so. We're going to be spending a lot of time focusing on 3D printing, 3D modeling rather, which can then be 3D printed, and then also coding, programming, like we had touched on both of those things earlier in the year kind of briefly. So first things first, we're going to make sure we have our TinkerCAD account. Let me click on over here. Now, I believe everybody already has a TinkerCAD account. If you do not have a TinkerCAD account, you're going to simply go to tinkercad.com. I'm already logged in, so let me log out. When you get there, it's going to look like this. You're going to click on Join Now, and you're going to click on Students Join a Class. Your class code is going to be this right here, PJVV8QVYBEH6. All right, so you can go ahead and put that code right in there. I haven't actually done this, but it'll give you an opportunity to come in and join this class. So I think you'll need your email and you'll create your account along with that. So for our first project here, we're going to be actually designing a 3D printable car. We're going to create these cars in TinkerCAD here. We're going to be modeling them like engineers do as part of any engineering project. One of the first steps is going to be to generate a 3D model, create a 3D model so you can kind of see how the pieces fit together. This isn't very sophisticated engineering software. AutoCAD would be a much better example, but that can also take, a decade to learn, and we have limited time, and this is much more user-friendly. So in building this car, I'm going to give you a quick refresher about how to use TinkerCAD in case you forgot. I'll actually come on back to our home page here. So when you get to your home page here, you're going to click Create New Design. I already have this going. I haven't actually done anything with it yet, but I'll go ahead and click Tinker This, and you'll just be creating a new design. Now, a quick refresher here, you can zoom in and out with the wheel on your mouse. Oh, I would definitely recommend find yourself a mouse for your computer. It's going to be a lot easier. This will work with iPads, it will work with laptops. If you find a computer and a mouse, your life's going to be a lot easier. I would definitely recommend it. So you can zoom in and out. You can also use these buttons on the side. I'm sure you can pinch and do the swipey guy with an iPad. If you right click on a mouse, you can orbit around so you can see all sides. So that kind of gives you that three-dimensional control. You can also do that by clicking up here, same thing on an iPad or laptop, that'll work. Over there. So in order to start creating a shape, we're going to drag shapes in from over here. We've got libraries of shapes. We've got different things that we can control, different variables that we can control about these shapes over here that'll modify them. We can also use these boxes to manipulate them. Wider, lift it up off the platform. We can rotate them. This locks it to 22.5-degree increments. If you move your mouse outside, you can do 1 degree at a time. So you can rotate things around. We can also use holes like this, or actually let's delete that. We'll put a hole right through the middle here, make it taller. And this will actually cut a hole out in the center of this thing. If I actually want to see the hole get cut out, I can either click and drag a box around them, or I can hold down the Shift key and select this one and this one, either way. As long as they're both selected, I can group them together. And when I group together a solid and a hole, then I can do that. And this will work with any shape. Let's turn it into a hole and poke a random. There we go, group them all together. All right, and the most important button in TinkerCAD is going to be our undo button here, because we'll make mistakes as we go, and that's okay. Undo will fix them all. And of course, you can just delete the whole thing using the delete key or the trash can as well. All right, so in order to get started working on a car here, our goal is really to design a car with 3D printing in mind, because where we want to go with this, you may have seen 3D printing in the news a lot with 3D printed ventilators, 3D printed masks for healthcare workers, for medical professionals. We're actually going to be trying to generate our own versions of those eventually, but before we can get to that, we're going to do a little bit of practice with the car. Our goal is to actually design a print-in-place car, so thinking about how 3D printers work. If I go to 3D print a shape, something like, let's take this shape. Hold on, a suitably weird shape here. Okay, so if I go to 3D print this shape here, it's going to print from the bottom up, right? It's going to start down here and go layer, 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 all the way up. It's going to run into trouble when it hits right here, because when it goes to do this layer, there's nothing below it for it to rest on, so it's literally just going to droop down, and it probably is just going to get destroyed. Nothing's going to happen over here. So if I were to 3D print this, I would actually be much better off 3D printing it on its side. That way I don't have any of those weird overhangs. When we design models for 3D printing, we have to think about this. We want to avoid these overhangs, and designing a car to do this can be a little bit tricky because there's a lot of potential overhangs. So a really basic, simple car would look like this, right? So we've got our body for the car. We're going to do 2 holes for the axles. Shrink it a little bit, rotate it that way, drop it on down. Put a hole, let's duplicate it. That's when you copy it, puts another copy right on top. Let's go ahead and group all that together to cut those holes out. And then we're going to create some axles for it. And I got to make sure the axles actually fit in there. We're going to go make them smaller, rotate it, fit them on in there. I'm not using any measurements here, but that looks like it'll fit. Here, we can go a little bit bigger. There we go. I'm going to use the arrow keys to move it around a bit. There we go. Make sure it sticks out this side. Not too far over there. Not too far over there. Again, I can duplicate, or you can also Control C and Control V. Copy and paste works just fine as well, but I like duplicate. There we go. Let's change the car color, rather, because why not? Okay, so this right here, we've got some definite issues. Oh, let me add some wheels to it. I can use a cylinder for the wheels, or I've got, a lot of different shapes available to me over here. I'm going to go to shape generators and all, because I happen to know that on one of these pages here, there is a wheel, and there's a tire too, but I like this guy. So looks a lot more realistic. There's a bunch of different styles you can do. All right, sure. We're gonna have to make it a lot smaller. We're gonna have to rotate it like so. And I gotta make sure that, first of all, it's not gonna be connected to the body here, because then the wheel won't ever spin. And I have to make sure that it is centered on this. So if I want to make sure the 2 things are centered, I can use my align tool up here. I can only use that align tool if I have both pieces selected. So I'm going to have this piece selected, hold shift, select that piece, and I'm going to align them in the center this way and in the center that way. And I'm just going to pull this whole thing out for now so you can see it. Oops. There we go. I'm going to duplicate this wheel. Since I'm using duplicate, it's exactly the same, so I'm going to just slide it over. That way I know it's centered as well. It doesn't really matter how far over it goes. And I'm actually going to group all 3 of these things together, just to stick them together so they don't go anywhere. I'm going to group them. And I don't like that the color changes when you group them. Wait for it. Thinking, loading. So I'm going to go and go multicolor, so my colors will come back to normal. There we go. So now when I select one, it's all one happy piece there. I can actually, if I want to cheat a little bit here, I'm just going to delete this guy. I'm going to duplicate this whole thing. There we go. Make sure these kind of fit in there, which they should. Oh, that's fused to the body there. Move it over. Let's move that guy over. All right. Now, I do have a lot of problems with this car, right? First of all, the wheels are under the platform, which is going to cause some problems. In fact, these wheels may not even touch the ground because there's a little space up here. So these wheels may not even touch the ground when this car starts to roll, because as this part shifts up, this body's going to shift down, and so the bottom of this might just drag on the ground. So one thing I can do is, let's go back to my basic shapes. Let's just trim all that off. Take a box. And, all right, and then I want to make sure I don't group it with the wheels because that'll cut those off. So I'm going to select only this piece, hold shift, and select only that piece, group those two together. And oh, you know what? I may have trimmed off a little too much there. Yep, let's undo that and make this box a little thinner. Kind of overkill there, but all right. There we go, group them together. And it's okay if there's a little line there. I'm not too worried about that, just as long as the axles can't escape. So here's my extremely simple car, right? This here would technically work, but it wouldn't print well because, first of all, I've got overhangs here. Under there, it's going to get all messed up. Even if I print it on its side, it's going to have all kinds of problems because there's going to be gaps everywhere. So even if I tried to print this thing on its side, let's see. Oh, well, you get the idea. There's going to be these overhangs up here. There's going to be overhangs under here. So it's just going to be a big mess to print it this way. What we have to do in order to fix all this, my car doesn't look very good right now. I could use some different shapes to stylize it a little bit, but I'll show you that in just a second. So what I could do to fix all this is I can actually try to make sure that one side is totally flat. Let me show you what that might look like. So if I get a cylinder here and kind of create a wheel well, which is going to be, I'm going to turn this into a hole. And the wheel well, my wheel is just going to fit right into, hopefully. And again, I'm not being very exact here, but it's okay. I want it just to be a little bit larger. And let's go ahead and cut out this wheel well. And again, I want to be careful not to cut the actual axle and the tire, so select just this, hold shift, group it together. All right, now this actually fits in there. So, not quite lined up. I could use my align tool here. So now if I were to do this on both sides, or on all the sides, then I would actually be able to flip this thing on its side. So for example, let me just move these. If I were to do this on both sides, now I could flip this thing on its side, and at least the bottom part is flat, the top part is flat, and I have much fewer overhangs. So now this would print reasonably well. The bottom would be flat, the wheels would be flat. This axle would not be stuck to the inside wall here at all because it would print nice and flat. I would obviously have to do this on this side too, otherwise I'm going to end up with a big mess from the overhang here. So using this idea, let's see, I want to ungroup that and duplicate it. And we're going to move it up a bit like so. And we're going to ungroup this for a second so I can make this one shorter. Bring this one down. Zoom in. Actually, if you press F, you can focus on a piece, which is really helpful. If you want to stop focusing on that piece, you can click the home button. There you go. So now I've got one wheel well. This is going to print a lot better. Oh, let me regroup that together with that. This is going to print a lot better. Now, to give you an idea of where we can go with this, here is a car that I designed a long time ago. These are some super basic ones. And I really actually stylized the car, right? So I've got my wheel wells. I've actually got the axles flared out like this, so we don't have any overhangs. This printed really well when I decided to print it. I added headlights, I added a bumper, I added kind of an angled hood there. You can see just some basic shapes that I added here. So this is what we're going for here, a print-in-place car that you guys can then race when we ever get back to our 3D printers. Have fun!